Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here. In this video, we're going to be talking about a subject that I feel is very important to discuss, and that subject is the 3 phases to self-mastery. Now, looking into the 3 phases, this really summarizes a lot of what I have been teaching over the years pertaining to the expansion of the self, reaching the bliss of the self, realizing how you are indeed the sovereign of your life. And it really just falls underneath these 3 mastery-based categories. First one representing body mastery. Second one representing mind mastery. Third one representing environmental mastery. So why don't we start off firstly with body mastery. What does that mean? When I want to move into body mastery, when I want to learn how to master the body, what does that entail? It involves one thing. The ability to listen. The ability to listen to your body. Whatever your body is telling you, you want to listen to it, because we are very, very good, many of us, at putting our body on ignore mode, right? If we're hungry, we're trying to fight that. If we're upset, if our emotions are trying to speak to us, we're basically just trying to ignore that. We don't want to hurt people's feelings, right? If our body is in pain, we try to ignore that, right? Whenever we're experiencing problems, whenever we're having stiffness, aches, sores, anything else, we are basically trying to ignore it. We've gotten to the point where we just want the body to work, and just do, until it practically is at the verge of collapsing, getting completely ill, and basically on the verge of perishing. This is how we've lived our lives. We do not listen to the body. We eat bad food. We contaminate ourselves with terrible forms of diet where we're just polluting our bodies horrendously, and our body is trying to do absolutely everything it can to try and stay together, hold itself together. It dedicates a great deal of prana-based resources to try to keep itself running. And this is why when you look at many people, there are people who are crippled, there are people who are sick, there are people who are ill, there are people who are just shut down, they're defeated, they're depressed, they're angry, they're outraged, they're aggressive. It goes on and on and on. And how has all this happened? We don't listen to the body. The body works to try and maintain itself in balance. How we conduct ourselves each and every single day based upon our actions is going to determine the shape and the integrity relating to the body. When we have headaches, all we try to do is try to pop a pill. Okay? We have backaches, we again try to pop a pill. We have problems with our knees. Oh, we need to go get the scalpel. Need to give ourselves a surgery. Take care of those knees so that even when we get our knees repaired, we go and we mess them up some more. It's the constant, oh, I'm broken, come and fix me so I can carry on type of mentality. And that is everything that represents the anti-listening. That's what represents bodily ignorance. So, and many of us have this, myself included. I've certainly had bodily ignorance myself as well too. And that's the key, is we want to learn to listen to the body. We want to learn to be a lot more gentle and affectionate and compassionate towards the body that we occupy. And the best way I can put this, and I mean this quite honestly, even though you have a body, it's not your body. Okay? This body belongs to the earth. This is the earth body. This is something you are borrowing. Okay? You are borrowing your body. You do not own it. Okay? You are not owning your body. This body is not yours. You are using it. You are utilizing it. You have access to it, but it's not yours. something was truly yours, then it's not something that would ever expire. Okay? The only thing that's you is the self. That's who you are. It's not that you own the self, you are the self. Right? So when you know that if you were the body, it would never die. If I am this body, if I am this mind, well, then these would never die. But they die. Thoughts come and go. They're here, they're gone. They die. The body is here and then it goes. These are temporary material items when it comes to our body. So we have to get into the mentality of realizing I'm just looking after, I'm leasing a body. I'm borrowing it for a time, for as long as I have it, and I'm going to treat it well. Okay? And how we treat it well is we learn to listen to the body. That when we need to go to the bathroom, we're not trying to hold it in because we're trying to work on the computer, we're trying to talk on the phone, and causing a lot of aggravation in the lower extremities. Trying to hold this in. Okay, I'll get that assignment done. Yeah, I'll get that paperwork done. Okay, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And our body's trying to tell us, hey, I need to evacuate right now. Can you let me do it? No, I'm on the phone. I'm typing. And this again represents the ignorance. We're not listening to the body. We become too programmed by society, right? Societal programming is what creates the ignorance. So we can call it societal ignorance. We neglect our body. All right, let's go get a good meal. No, I'll just go grab a pizza real quick. I'll go grab some McDonald's. I'll go grab some Burger King real quick. Because I gotta eat and I gotta be on the go. And I'm eating and I'm working and I'm listening to the radio. I'm hearing this other person talk in the background, and I'm getting way too much sensory data. I'm getting way too much sensory stimulation. That takes a toll on your body because you're trying to focus on multiple things at the same time. So this is where we're learning to listen. This is where we are learning to work together with the body, so that the idea of societal ignorance, the idea of feeling that we're just trying to work this body, run this body into the ground by working for a living, realizing that we're just trying to cope with the sicknesses and the illnesses and the injuries and the emotional overload that we carry with us each and every single day. We're just trying to cope with all of this. We're trying to make it work, but it doesn't. That is what causes the body to decay. Because in the best way I can put it, you don't respect the body when you're like that. You don't honor the body when you're like that. And you're certainly not mastering the body when you're like that. The ability to listen, the ability to be present, the ability to work with intuition. Okay? When we are listening, when we are present, when we are working with our intuition, that is where we're at our most powerful. That's where we can truly tune into the body and give it all the basic needs that it requires. We're feeding it well, we're exercising well, we're going within ourselves, we're in our own world, we're in that state of peace. We have to make peace with ourselves. And so this is really what culminates all of the levels of mastery, but particularly with the body. You want to make peace with the body. You want to realize that this is an instrument that has been given to me to be borrowed. And I am borrowing this body. I do not own it. It is not property. Because that's me thinking that the earth is my property. The earth is not my property. Okay? The land is not my property. The animals and the people here are not my property. And anytime we think that, we're going into backwards orientation here. We're walking backwards. We're walking a very, very unnatural path by thinking that. Realize that you are borrowing a body. Realize that the body wants to work together with you, because you do not control all the functions of the body, right? About 90 some odd % of the body is automated. It's taking care of itself, but it needs you to be the facilitator, needs you to breathe, needs you to eat, needs you to drink, needs you to sleep, needs you to move the body. Okay? That's your responsibility. And when you learn to listen, when you are present, when you work with your intuition, you're going to take great care of the body. The body is still going to age. The body still has an expiration date. But you have lived your life where you're truly at peace with the body. You are working with the organism of the body because it is of an intelligent design. And you are working with that intelligent design with this organism peacefully. And that is how we learn to master the body. We do it through the ability to listen, to be present, and to work with our intuition. So that's body mastery. Okay? Then we move forward into mind mastery, where we attempt to look at our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and our sensations. Okay, this is a good way to sum up the nature of the mind, because it's a bundle of thoughts, of feelings, of emotions, and of sensations. And what happens when we don't follow the natural course of our intuition, of being present, and of the ability to listen? Well, we start going into disarray relating to our thoughts. Our thoughts now start piling into ourselves. I gotta get this done, I gotta take care of that, I gotta go take care of the kids, I gotta go do this, I gotta go do that. Oh, what if this person doesn't like me? Oh my God, this person is better than me. Oh my God, I value this person's opinion more than myself, etc., etc. We get this pollution. We get this thought pollution within ourselves because we see ourselves, there's the stick man again, we see ourselves in very low self-esteem. We bury ourselves. It's about what everybody else wants, right? And of course, there's the opposite of the spectrum. We think everybody else is beneath us and we're high and mighty, okay? So whether you're high and mighty above everybody else, or whether you feel everybody else is high and mighty and you're down in the dirt, this is still going to lead to two extremes. Because again, we are victims of our own thinking, of our own feelings, of our own emotions, of our own sensations. We let that run amok. We let the ego come in and either bury us or praise us to the mountaintop, where we again feel like we're superior than everybody else, or everybody else is more superior than us. And those are really, in a nutshell, the two extremes right there. And again, we let our thoughts own us. And this is where the nature of the ego thrives. Okay? So we look at the nature of the mind. Of course, this does associate with the body as well too. But we look at the nature of ego. And ego is all about the idea of observing what has happened. It's all about the past, and it's all about the what-ifs of the future. What has happened in the past, and the what-ifs, the hypotheses of the future. And that's what the ego thrives on. What if this happens? What if that happens? Remember when this happened? Remember this thought happened? Remember when that thought happened? Remember this thought happened? Remember when that happened? And you form identity around that. Now, the ego itself does not even have a form. It's like looking at a shadow. Okay? The ego doesn't even really exist, but it really would represent the idea of a type of program. It's a shadow. It's the absence of something. And what that absence represents is one who feels that they are a separate self. When I am talking about the ego, I'm not talking about the dictionary-based term. Okay? I'm talking about the nature of the separate self. Okay? Because what is a shadow? When we look at a shadow, right, if the light is casting a shadow over here, what is that? Well, that is an absence of something, right? There's an obstruction in the way that is casting a shadow, but a shadow doesn't even really exist. It's because there's an obstruction. The ego just represents that shadow because we are the obstruction that is making that shadow what it is. Okay? So here we are as the obstruction. Here we are thinking that we are a separate self-consciousness. And the shadow is being cast here based on the obstruction of how we see ourselves. That is the ego. It is not this. This is you. Okay? You're being the obstruction. You're standing in your own way. Rather than being able to walk this beautiful divine path that is right before you, you decide to stand still. You decide just to stay there and contemplate and feel how you're no good, how you have no value to anybody, how you feel like you're in despair, how you feel you're upset, how you feel you're angry, how you're being bombarded by thoughts. What if this happens? What if that happens? Or remember how this happened in the past, etc. So this obstruction about why we're standing still is us pointing towards the past and concerning about the what ifs of the future. So we have memory that is haunting us, keeping us in the past, keeping us still, and we have imagination that is constantly giving us what ifs, hypotheticalness. Oh, but if I don't do this, won't this happen? What if this takes place? What if this happens? What if this manages to knock me off course and I can never get back up again? What if, what if, what if, what if? Okay? So you're not moving. You're basically having this gravity well here that's taking place. You have this gravity well of being stuck in the past and being stuck in the hypothetical what ifs of the future. And this is where we have the ignorance of the mind. Okay? The ignorance of the mind, because we are valuing this shadow, this ego, this artificial program, right, that really does not even really exist, but we are again stuck in memory and we are stuck in imagination. Rather than moving forward upon this golden brick road, to move forward and to move into a higher ascent with yourself, you're stuck with the past. You're worried about the future. Okay? And that is what's keeping you in the state of ignorance, the lack of mind mastery. How do we resolve that? We do the same thing. We listen. We are present. We work with our intuition. Okay? It's these three principles through the three phases of self-mastery that will bring the resolution to the body, to the mind, and as I'll talk about shortly, to the environment. But that's all the ego represents, everybody, okay? So again, there are different perceptions of what some people refer to as the ego. The ego says, well, it's kind of like it's a mediator in between understanding rationality and so forth. Okay, that's that's a definition term, maybe in a dictionary, but that's not really the type of ego that I'm talking about. We're basically looking into the nature of what represents the, I guess you could say, stuck aspects of ourself, the shadow that prevents us from moving, okay? So it is the ego, in this case, that represents the separate self that keeps us stuck. If I had a nickel for the thousands of clients that have come to me and said, Brad, I'm stuck. Brad, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. I probably have thousands of dollars right now. Because that happens all the time. I've worked with tens of thousands of people throughout the span of nearly 15 years where that stuckness is there, okay? It's common, my friends, right? You're not the only one on planet Earth who's stuck. You're not the only one on planet Earth who's going through this unbelievable gravitational pull about being stuck in the past and worried about the future, okay? It's very, very common. The majority of people on the planet have this. And I've worked with tens of thousands of them over the years. So again, the key here about working together with mind mastery is just working to keeping yourself clear through the ability to listen, through the ability to be present, through the ability to work with your intuition. So when we have these complete and total bombarding thoughts, one of the solutions that many people believe is that, well, if I have a negative, let me turn it into a positive. Okay? If I have a negative here, I'll just move it into a positive, and that will take care of it. But what these things do is they clash with one another. They clash together, they fight, right? The negative and the positive will fight each other. It's a clash, right? It's kind of like, no, I'm not going to serve the darkness, I'm going to serve the light. I'm not going to serve the light, I'm going to serve the darkness, and so on and so forth. And it just becomes a duel of fates, becomes a polarizing situation. And even back in the day, is I thought this is what we really needed to do. We just need to turn a negative into a positive. And just think positively, my friends. Just think positive about everything. Be positive, be positive, be positive, and everything will be okay. Don't try and bring any darkness in. Just keep the positive here, right? Just keep yourself in the light. And that becomes a band-aid, okay? That is a bandage solution. And so this is not the way. It is not about turning a negative into a positive. It is very important that you need to learn to love, right? That we're not really learning to love. We are love, but we need to establish that. We need to realize that we are that love. And so the key here is not to try to turn a negative into a positive. If we have something here that's disruptive, the key here is to surrender. Okay? The surrender doesn't involve this. Okay? Does not involve the positive whatsoever. And it does not involve this either. It does not involve the negative. Surrendering does not involve polarity. Okay? It's not about thinking, oh, I feel so negative here. Oh, I'll feel just more positive about this. No, I surrender to it. If those are two flags that I'm holding up, the negative flag and the positive flag, I'm dropping them both. And what remains is the ability to surrender and let the true self, let the soul, let that which you truly are, your source, take care of it all. Okay? So the whole idea is that when you feel like you're geared up and you're ready to fight, but all of a sudden you get this wave of calmness, you get this wave of peace, and here you are holding your rifle, ready to go into battle, but there's a sudden wave of peace, there's a sudden wave of calmness, there's this feeling of just wanting to surrender. And as you feel it, you drop the rifle. You don't want to fight anymore. I can't explain it. I just went into peace. I just felt calmness, right? I didn't need to do battle with these others because I'm no longer standing still. I'm now walking the path. I'm moving forward. The peace is actually helping me to move forward. It's not causing me to be at a standstill anymore, where I'm relying on this artificial program, this illusion that we call the separate self-ego, to try to run anything anymore. I'm completely free. This wave of calmness, this wave of peace, this sensation, just to tell me to surrender, let it all go, and be free. And that's what I did. I dropped the rifle and I had no desire to fight anybody. And I felt absolutely liberated. You see? This is where people get to the point where they are ultimately confused. Because when they hear this word, surrender, oh, Brad, you're just telling me to give up. You're just telling me to just throw everything away and just give up and run away like a coward. That's what you're trying to get me to do, right? Just try to get me to throw everything away, act like a coward, and just run. No. When have you ever seen someone surrender, get up and run away? You don't, right? What you see is you see their own complete and total transitioning away of ambition. Their ambition to fight. Their ambition to resist. Their ambition to defend. Their ambition to be anxious. Their ambition to be sad. Okay? All of that falls away. There's no more drawing force that represents the nature of anything that represents a tendency. That tendency to fight, that tendency to be angry, that tendency to be sad, that tendency to be fearful, that tendency to defend, that tendency to run away. When you run away, you're not surrendering, my friend. Okay? When you're running away, you are acting on a tendency. Okay? That tendency, again, is the umbrella to our beliefs, to our traumas, to our survival. Okay? All of these reign under the tendency umbrella. Those are the tendencies. I need to survive. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. Right? I can't stay here. I need to go. I need to go. I need to go. So what happens when we feel that wave of calmness, we feel that wave of peace, what happens? What's happening to the board here? All of that is dropping away. All of that is disappearing. It's being absorbed. Because you are working with the mind master, you're listening to what this feeling is, you're being present with what this feeling is, and your intuition is just telling you, just drop everything. And you do it. You act through your intuition. So the key here is being able to work with the nature of surrendering, with the nature of letting go, not running away. Running away is trying to avoid a problem. You never run away and surrender. You simply have that absorption of the tendencies that represented all of those impairments drop away. You've never run away. Okay? So that's what I have to say to the people, because I've gotten those in the past as well too. Oh, Brad, what are you telling me to surrender here? What's all surrender? Like, many people think that surrender is a cowardly way. It's the way of a coward, but it's not. Surrendering is actually one of the most challenging things to give yourself into, because we are so used to putting up a fight. We are so used to defending ourselves. We're so used to putting up a gigantic shield because we're trying to defend this. That's what you're doing. When you go off into the past, when you worry about the future, you're defending a shadow. Why are you defending something that is an absence, right? Why are you defending something that's a program? Because this is all you're defending. You're defending a shadow and nothing more. You're not defending your personal honor. There's no such thing. Okay? It's all about the natural beingness that you are. That's the true honor. Okay? Your true honor is your beingness. Your true honor is your self. Right? The self is the true honor because it's who you really are. If I'm defending something that does not exist, then that is ridiculous. Okay? So the mind mastery is being able to let go of these identifying thoughts of attachment. You are attached to these thoughts and you are seeing them as identity. Right? Our feelings, our emotions, our sensations, these are all attachments. These are all perturbations. These are all disturbances of the ether. If we're looking at this blank area of the board, right, where nothing is on it, we cannot see anything. There is an absence of anything that we can identify. Well, that would represent the ether. Okay, watch what I'm doing now. Okay, what are we seeing here? We're seeing a torus. Okay? So when we're looking at the idea of the torus, this represents an inversion. A torus is a geometry of inversion. Okay? It is what you see when you turn a sphere inside out. You see the torus. And in the middle, you see the hourglass, otherwise known as a hyperboloid. Okay? This is a disturbance. This is a perturbation. This is what happens when you think, when you feel, when you act, when you have a sensation. Okay? This is the idea of the dielectric. This is the idea of the magnetic. Okay? We also have what's known as the source point here in the middle. The dielectric represents the nature of inertia. The magnetic represents the loss of inertia. Okay? And it's the magnetic that we will utilize as it represents the nature of our own life force energy. This is why we call it vital magnetism. This is why we call it prana or chi or mana or any other name you want to call it that's there. Vril is another one. But the torus represents a disturbance. It is the inversion of the ether. It is a perturbation of the ether. That's basically what we have been doing with ourselves. We've been creating these gigantic toruses based on how we think, how we feel, how we act, how we experience our sensations. And what happens when you surrender? We're looking at this as an analogy pertaining to our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, our sensations, and it's generated this torus. What happens when we surrender? That's what happens. Everything absorbs back into the ether. Okay? The ether is the truth. So whenever we have a disturbance, we're cracking open the ether and the torus comes back. Okay? That torus itself is what is responsible for our perturbations of thoughts, of identity, of attachments, everything that represents a personality consciousness all comes through that dielectric magnetic perturbation that we call the torus. Okay? That's what's happening. And I'm using this in a way, it's factual, but I'm also using this as an analogy as well too. That when we start to harmonize ourselves, we're still a magnetic being, right? Our magnetism is here. But what's happening is our magnetism is getting distorted. It's getting bent out of shape. It's misaligning itself, right? That's the nature of our natural vital magnetism. This is just another example I'm giving you guys here. The nature of our vital magnetism, when it gets distorted because, oh, I don't think I'm going to stand up to this person. Oh, woe is me. This is hurting. This is hurting. This is bad. This is bad. I'm blaming this person. This person's horrible, blah, 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 blah. And these all represent a truncation that takes place within the magnetic field, within our own living field. And so we get these perturbations coming together. But what happens when we start surrendering? What's happening to the torus now? The torus is now starting to return back into its natural geometry. Right? If this torus represents a certain form of thought, and we start clearing it away by surrendering, look what happens to the torus. Okay? Look what happens to our magnetic field. Everything starts to harmonize back into itself again. That's our goal. That's how we have body and mind mastery. Okay? We are harmonizing the body because we're taking care of it. We're harmonizing the mind because we're taking care of it. We're not discarding the body, right? There are even some masters out there that will discard the body. And I said, that's not the kind of teachings that I provide. I'm teaching you guys to integrate, to bring the divine into the physical, right? To bring what is truly beautiful, what's truly yourself, what is bliss, and bringing that into the physicality, right? You are not here to discard this. You are not here to discard this. You're just here to bring those into balance. You're here to integrate. You are bringing the divine into the world, right? As that old saying goes, we are bringing heaven onto earth, okay? So we are keeping ourselves in alignment with the ether. Because if we go into much deeper states where we're continuously just surrendering, you are really just going to absorb yourself back into the ether again. You won't even have a body anymore because you will continue to absorb the vital magnetism back into the ether. You will take that inverted sphere and you'll return it back into natural equilibrium. And that's basically what I'm attempting to show here, relating to this absence of space right here, absence of anything, I could say. Space really is the absence, but it's basically just seeing this absence here where we cannot identify anything. It's this absence that creates infathomability. We cannot fathom anything. There's nothing here. Okay? It's an absence. But that is basically what happens, as of what the great masters will do, is they will continue to surrender and surrender and surrender through their body, through the mind, through the environment, or through the world, until they just basically absorb themselves back into the ether, which means their body itself disappears. Because they're giving themselves so much charge through the dielectric that when you run so much electricity through a magnetic body, the body will disappear. The magnetism is the lack of inertia. Okay? It's basically pocketed in a lower pressure medium. And as we start to run electricity through that magnetism. The magnetism itself gets absorbed back into the dielectric, okay? Or you could say singularity here. So let's imagine that this singularity here is getting charged. As it's getting charged, all the light that represents the magnetism is being fed back into the singularity. As it's being fed back into the singularity, there's no more magnetism that remains, and that's what happens to the mind. Okay? And this is what certain masters have been able to do. They've been able to absorb their magnetism back into the ether itself, so that you cannot fathom anything. It is completely unfathomable now of what happened to them. They're here, they're gone. What happened? They returned back to the oneness of the self. They absorbed themselves back into the self. This has been talked about for many thousands of years, going back into ancient yoga, going back into ancient alchemy, going back into the ancient mastery practices, okay, of great masters, of great teachers who have been able to absorb themselves back into God, absorb themselves back into the ether, where there is not even a trace of their body that remains. It's because they charge themselves with the divine state of surrender, that charge absorbed their magnetism, and their magnetism returned back into the natural splendor of the ether, where that's all we see. Okay? So I know I'm going a little bit above and beyond here, but I'm giving you guys a little bit more of an understanding here about what we truly are. So the nature of the mind is going into that ability to surrender. And through surrender comes listening, comes being present, comes working together with our intuition. Surrender grants all of this. So if I was to sum it up, even beyond the 3 key words, the true word here is surrender. But some people get a little bit shaky with that term, so this is why I'm defining it in this way. Now we're going to move on to the final part, which is environmental mastery. Well, how does that work? Are you telling me that I can master my environment, Brad? That's exactly what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that you can master the entire world. How the heck is that going to happen? Well, let's see. So, we're going to go into environmental mastery. And this is what happens quite commonly, right? We're starting to take good care of the body. We're starting to work together with our thoughts. We're not quite there. And when we're by ourselves, we feel so completely at peace, right? There's that smiley face because we're on our own. We live by ourselves. Maybe we're out in the country, maybe we're out in the forest. We're not really associating ourselves with humans in that way. And we just feel so peaceful, we feel so splendid because we're on our own. One day, another person comes along and just starts fuming, starts getting angry, starts getting aggressive, starts just spewing all this toxic pollution about how upset they are and how angry they are because they don't like what you wear. They don't like why you're smiling. They don't like how you smile. They don't like the way your teeth are. They don't like that you don't hardly have any hair. And they just start fuming, right? And so, after encountering that person, that happens, okay? I was in such a peaceful space. I was in such a peaceful state. And all of a sudden, this guy comes along and just starts bashing me, right? He hated what I wore. He doesn't like Under Armour. Doesn't like that I had a beard. Doesn't like that I have tattoos on my arms. Doesn't like how I talk. Doesn't like how I walk, right? Doesn't like my YouTube videos, whatever it is. And so I turned that smile into a frown. Say, oh, I just had the worst day. Like, when nobody's around, I'm so at peace. When I'm just on my own, I'm so peaceful. Everything feels good. I'm completely happy. And then as soon as I step out that door and I get to deal with a bunch of these idiots, everything goes downhill. Okay? And that's been my story at times as well, too. And I'll certainly admit that. But this, again, is where we do not have control of our environment. Okay? Which means you don't just keep everything bottled in through yourself. When you are working with your body, okay, You're working with your body, you are sharing that splendor that you are performing through your body. When you are working with your mind, you are performing, you are sharing, you are expanding that splendor with you balancing out the mind, which means you're being aware of what your environment is telling you. Okay? When you notice you have a disgruntled person like this, it's not about spending the next 2 weeks trying to go forward and trying to do dream interpretation, right? Why did he act like this? Why did he act like that? Why did I attract this person? How is this person in my life? How come they're doing what they're doing? Why are they doing what they're doing? Etc., etc., etc. And I spend 2 weeks just looking at analysis, when the answer is so simple. It comes down to that. Surrender. Stop trying to analyze. Stop trying to interpret. Stop trying to figure out through the ego mind, how could that person come along? How did these group of people come along and I just went outside and people are fighting and I get mad and I get upset, blah, 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 blah. Well, have you surrendered? Oh, no, but well, there you go. Okay? To master the environment, it all comes down to the previous key words, right? Through surrendering, we're able to listen. Okay? We're being present. And we're working with our intuition. Okay? These are the effects of surrender, right? Working with those 3 aspects. I hope you guys are more happy with the idea of understanding surrender now. Okay? So through surrendering, we're listening, we're being present, we're working with our intuition. So rather than worrying about how that guy just came by and just started fuming at me and just started throwing all these insults at me and everything like that, I'm just holding space. I'm just listening. Okay? So I know that's a challenging thing to do, but as you start to work together with yourself in mastering the body and mastering the mind, the nature of you being able to work and harmonizing the environment will be natural to you. It'll be second nature. Okay? I've already mastered the body. I'm listening to it all the time. I'm being a lot more aware of myself. I'm being a lot more aware of what my body needs. I'm being a lot more aware of the thoughts that are coming into my mind. I'm working with surrender. I'm working with just expanding myself. I want you guys to try that with me right now. This is what I've talked about before pertaining to the nature of Hakalau. Right? Where you're just taking your index fingers and you're just moving it to the peripherals. Okay? And you just find a point just ahead of you. And I want you just to expand your vision, where you are able to see the 2 index fingers here in your peripherals. And I want you just to take in everything that you see right here, right now. Okay? That is giving you the example of being expansive. Okay? We are going into that expanse. We're taking everything in. It's no longer that we're seeing the puzzles of the jigsaw, the puzzle pieces of the jigsaw. We're seeing the entire picture. This is moving from the linear mind, the logical mind, into the complete and total big picture, right? The superconscious, right? The totality of everything, right? So we're moving to left brain to right brain. Simple as that. That's all we're doing. That's all that this represents, is that when we really want to bring ourselves into calmness, activate the right brain. Activate the non-linearity of yourself by being able to see the entire picture. Go beyond the linear mind and come into the non-linear mind, right? Using something just as simple as that, where you're just keeping an eye on your peripherals, you're taking everything in, everything now comes into surrender, where you're just following your breath and you're feeling yourself breathing in and breathing out, and you're expanding the breath, and you're doing it again. You're breathing in, you're breathing out, and you're expanding the breath. You're feeling the breath expand you, and you are caught in the center of that expansion, and that is what ceases all thinking. Okay? Simple things just like that. And that's how we hold space, my friends. Okay? I'm not talking about you just having to do some kind of hand posture and you're still kind of like bubbling over because this person's saying a whole bunch of horrible things about you. Okay? That's not the idea of working with mastering the environment. To really master the environment is through the nature of surrender. For us to listen, to be present, to work with our intuition, to expand, right? And as we continue to expand and we just feel peace, we could be next to the most horrible person on the face of the planet, but we're able to bring harmony to that entire space because we are in surrender, right? We are teaching ourselves how to surrender. We're teaching ourselves how to let go of anything problematic because all we've been that obstruction, creating that shadow, okay? We're getting out of that. So the third phase of mastery involves mastering the environment, where you're bringing peace to everything around you. We can call it mastery of the environment. We can call it mastery of the world, okay? You're bringing peace to everything because you are not identifying with the personality consciousness anymore because you've mastered the mind, right? You realize that through the work that you are putting in, the power of surrender has become second nature to you. Through the power of surrender, through my ability to listen, to be present, to have intuition, I have worked with mastering the body. I've worked with mastering the mind. And I'm working with mastering my environment because I'm spreading out, I'm expanding everything that represents that bliss, that happiness, that joy, that peace. I'm not just keeping it bottled in. I'm bringing peace to my entire environment, right? If I'm living with people that are, again, belligerent, hostile, negative, in all different types of ways, as long as I'm feeling that fire, I will join that type of mentality. Instead, I'm going to harmonize the space. I'm going to walk around my home. I'm going to put my hand on the wall and say, blessings to this space. It is my sanctuary. Okay? I will go into another room. I'll put my hand on the wall there. Blessings to this space. It is my sanctuary. Okay? If I'm living with other people, blessings to this space. It is the sanctuary for my family. It is a sanctuary for my friends. It's a sanctuary for my roommate and I. It is a sanctuary for my partner and I. Okay? Whatever it is, whatever your living situation is, when you say the word sanctuary, okay, you can put another word there if you want, but I'm going to give you the idea of why we say sanctuary. Okay? This is your heaven. This is your blessed space. This is the space of your center. This is your center space. And sanctuary represents that center. It is your sanctuary, it is your sanctum, it is your haven, it is your heaven, okay? It is your paradise. It is the center of your living space. And you are blessing that space just with a simple word saying sanctuary, or a simple phrase, bless this sanctuary for me and my family, okay? You could also put heaven, you could also put paradise. Anything else you want to put there besides sanctuary, you can. But this is your living center. This is your space of sanctuary. And you are blessing it each and every single day, not because you're turning it into a chore, not because you're turning it into an errand, but because you honor the space. You love how peaceful it is, whether people are living in it with you or not. You keep the space clean. When you're sweeping the floor, bless my sanctuary. When I'm vacuuming the floor, bless my sanctuary. When I'm cleaning the toilet, bless my sanctuary. Okay? Everything here does not even matter what the building looks like. It does not matter what the place looks like. It's your space. Okay? To somebody else, it may be a rundown dive, but to you, it's a beautiful sanctuary. It is heaven to you. It's not about the outer appearance. It's about what it means to you as your living space. Now you're taking all of that and you're bringing it out through the world. You're taking your living center through your environment and you're blessing everything. If I'm walking down a street with a bunch of people, bless everyone that walks down this sidewalk. Right? I'm blessing them. Because as I bless others, I'm blessing myself. Okay? It all comes back into one here. There's only you here. right? So as I'm driving down the road and I see other cars, bless this highway. May everybody get safely to where they need to be. This road is a sanctuary. Okay? We're getting into that mentality. We're blessing the environment. We're mastering our space. So when we have this person, we're coming back to this person in that sense, and they're just spewing a bunch of stuff and spewing a bunch of stuff. And I'm just looking at them and smiling. All right, thank you very much for sharing. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for sharing. I didn't know about these things about myself, and I really appreciate you giving me that. They basically lose their edge. They don't have anything. Rather than you retaliating, you're complimenting them, right? You're just blessing them, or you're just smiling at them and not even saying anything. And they don't know what to do with that. They're not getting the rocket fuel that they need to continue to be aggressive, and it just falls away. And you're completely imperturbed by it because you have been working on mastering your body, on mastering your mind, and now you're starting to work on mastering your environment. You are clearing away all toxicity that represents the physical matter in regards to distortions of the body, that represents the thought pollution through the mind, and that represents the environmental toxicity that we may meet. So again, like I said, it's not about asking all these questions. Why did a person come into my life? And why were they doing this? Why were they acting like this? We want to be the investigator. And the key to freedom from it is to surrender. I realized this person was acting this way. I realized that this is what they were saying. I realized this is how it was affecting me. Am I ready to let that go? Yes, let it be so. And it's gone. What I just did, guys, is very commonly how I surrender, how I let go of things. Some of you may be asking that, well, Brad, what do you do? Do you work with the BCR technique? Do you work with prana transmission? Do you work with release ball method? Of course, I've worked with all of them. But as I've worked with them for quite some time, I work with it in a way that is just so simple that within seconds, I can surrender it, okay? I've certainly been caught up with challenges. I'm not saying I'm Mr. Perfect here, and I haven't gone through any of these things. In fact, I'd like to leave you with the idea of an understanding. It is not an enlightened way to feel like a person will say, nothing upsets me anymore, okay? That is not what I would refer to be as the enlightened way. The enlightened way is, I am who I am, and if I trip and fall, I will always pick myself back up and carry on. That, I'd say, is much more humble. That's more of the humility. Oh yeah, I never get upset anymore, I never get angry anymore, I never get this. Okay, if I start pinching this guy's cheek, right, and honking his nose, hey, what'd you do that for? Oh, there you go. You got angry, right? So again, that's not really the key to the enlightened way or the state of humility, right? I simply am who I am. If I trip and if I fall, I will pick myself back up and I will carry on, okay? That's the idea to have. It's okay to trip and fall. It's okay to have challenges. It's okay to feel like you've had a rough day and you've lost your footing and you've fallen on the ground, right? In the dirt. But you realize, okay, I lost control of my footing. I tripped over my own foot. I fell head first onto the dirt. Yeah, it hurt, but that's okay. I dust myself off. I work with myself to say, okay, I'm getting up and I'm continuing to move forward, okay? That is the humble act. That is the enlightenment act. That's the enlightenment way, okay? It's not about you trying to be perfect, because we have these so-called masters who think, oh yeah, I never get angry anymore, I never get sad anymore, right? But maybe I'll do something really embarrassing to them. Say, what did you do? What are you doing that for? Well, there you go. You're not really exactly who you say you are, right? And I would never say that. I'm not at the point where, so yeah, guys, you can't get me mad, you can't get me angry, you can't get me sad. Of course you can. There are certain things that you can do. But that again is me tripping over my own feet, dusting myself off, picking myself back up, and carrying onwards. That is the way of the humble master, okay? And if you can do that, you're following that path. Enlightenment is not the end. Enlightenment is just the beginning. So a lot of people think, oh yeah, once you get enlightened, once you get up right to the top of the mountain, once you see God, you're done. No, there is no done. It would not be the infinite if that was the case. There's a lot of teachers that are teaching people that as well too. Even when you're working with mastering your body, mastering your mind, mastering your environment, you're just beginning, okay? It's like you haven't even scratched the surface to anything right now. all you're doing is remembering who you are. Now that you remember who you are, you now experience the infinite nature of life. That's it. There is no ending to this. Enlightenment is not the end. At best, it's the beginning. But at best, really, I would say, it's just you remembering yourself, and now you can truly live. You've gotten out of survival, and now you're coming into living. And the best way to really live is to master the body, the mind, and the environment, as I've shared in today's video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. And I will speak to you again in the next video. Om Shanti 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 Namaskar. And may it be well with you. Goodbye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to New Earth Teachings on YouTube. Don't forget to check out our websites, newearthteachings.com, where you can do private sessions with me, and also etherics.co. And through Etherics, you'll be able to pick up your Healing Code Cards body deck, your mind deck, and your energy deck through Etherics. You will also be able to pick up the Etherbed kit. That is also on Etherics as well. Not to mention that you'll also be able to pick up some apparel and accessories that is also available on Etherics. Thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next one. Om Shanti 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 Namaskar, and may it be well with you.